It's John and Emily with Zero Res. Did you know your carpets are the biggest air filter in your home? They trap all the summer dirt, dust, allergens, and bacteria.
The good news is Zero Res can help. Our Zero Res technology is platinum rated by the Carpet and Rug Institute. Zero Res will clean your carpet the right way without leaving any residue.
We have you covered for tile, upholstery, area rugs, hardwood, and air ducts too. Call for an estimate and schedule your cleaning. 435-554-1050.
That's 435-554-1050. Zero Res. Backwards or forwards, it's the right way to clean.
The Cache Valley Media Group Logan Holiday Gift Show is presented by Coppins Hallmark. Friday and Saturday, November 11th and 12th at the Riverwoods Conference Center. It is the perfect place to kick off your holiday shopping. Ideas and treats for the entire family. Clothing, books, jewelry, purses, home and holiday decor, baby items, and don't miss everyone's favorite guest, Santa. The Logan Holiday Gift Show, presented by Coppins Hallmark. Friday and Saturday, November 11th and 12th at the Riverwoods Conference Center. Start your holiday shopping off right.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. That makes sense.
Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
Another gorgeous morning in Cache Valley. Good morning, Will Feelright, along with Mark Anderson for the KVNU Garden Guide. And Mark, if you were coming in about 20 minutes earlier, you would have enjoyed a gorgeous sunrise again up over Mount Logan. As I was coming in listening to Senior Moments, it was just beautiful, breathtaking. It only lasts for about a minute, and then it's gone.
It was pink at my house. Yeah.
Just really, really pretty.
You could see the pink coming over the mountains. So, yeah. And we've had some cold. We've had some snow. It's like really, really feeling like fall now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to hear if anyone's been able to keep any vegetables alive. You know, I was back in the day, I remember Dad used to pull out the old plastic and we'd get out in the late at night and we're trying to lay this plastic down and then put rocks over it, and then the wind picks up and it just eventually I got to the point where I realized this just isn't worth it. You try to fight Mother Nature and eventually Mother Nature just wins.
Yes. And that is doable if we have like an early frost in like late September.
Mm-hmm.
But once we get to the latter part of October, and that's when we're having our first frost, that's usually the end of it.
Everything's done at that point.
That's definitely usually the end. And at that point, the sunlight hours are getting shorter, and temperatures are definitely cooler during the day, and so the plants just don't mature very well either. So once we lose those summertime temperatures in late September, it's a slow crawl to mature things. I know we were harvesting some cantaloupes that looked really good, but then when we ate them, it's just like, they're just
not that great.
They're just not that awesome. And we were harvesting some tomatoes, and it's just like, these almost taste like they're not overly ripe, but they taste like they're starting to mold already. It's just the flavors start to change, and it's time to move on. Except the root crops are amazing right now. And my daughter made some butternut squash soup the other night, and it was awesome. It was really, really good. We harvested some fresh rosemary to go in it. We had our honey baby squash to put in there, and we had basically everything for it except for the cream to sweeten it up a little bit. So
we already broke into one of our spaghetti squash. We did one of our summer squash early on, and just been delicious.
Yeah. We've been digging carrots, and the carrots have been amazing. Onions, potatoes, just everything root crop wise is coming out of the garden amazing. But it is time to prep the garden for winter and for next spring. So this is a really good time to plan ahead. It's a good time to cut down perennials. It's a great time to winterize your roses. We're getting a lot of leaves coming off the trees, so we can do some rose and flowering shrub winterization, and definitely between Halloween and Thanksgiving is when I like to do my winterizer on my lawn. So we got another storm coming up, so I still don't think we're going to have storm that's going to stick and stay, and that's when I like to do my winterizer, and we'll do a little bit of protection for voles as well too, since the vole populations have been pretty high lately. That's probably something we should talk about on the show this morning, and talk about how to control those voles and make them go to your neighbor's house
exactly.
Instead of coming to yours. That will work a lot better. But at Anderson's, there's a lot of things happening this weekend. We've got the Witches Dance tonight on Center Street. So Center Street's going to be shut down at I think at 3 o'clock, maybe even a little bit earlier this afternoon. Might be 1 o'clock, but they're going to be shutting down Center Street for the Halloween festival that's going on there on Center Street. So should be exciting. And we thought, since we're starting to get low on fall planted bulbs, we thought we would put those on sale this weekend. So I do have some really nice bulbs left. Don't have the selection that we had a couple weeks ago because everybody's been out planting, but we're going to do all of our fall planted bulbs. So tulips, hyacinths, daffodils, crocus, they'll all be 25% off this weekend. So if you want to come in and take advantage of our bulb sale, we'll be putting our bulbs 25% off for this weekend. We just got our last big shipment of amaryllis bulbs in, and so we're working on those. We're going to start getting those potted up today, and so we've got a great selection of amaryllis bulbs. Some of the extra large jumbos are so big I can't put my hands all the way around them. They are just absolutely massive. And the bigger the bulb, the more flowers you're going to get on the amaryllis bulb. So our standard size, which is still extra large, our standard size 34-centimeter bulbs will put out 2 to 3 flower stems with 4 to 6 flowers on each stem. And then our jumbos, our extra bigs, that are 40 centimeters or larger, those will put out 3 to 4 flower stems with 4 to 6 flowers on each stem. And we've got probably about 20 varieties of colors to choose from. So lots and lots of colors, a lot of great bulbs, and we're expecting to have an amazing flower crop this winter on our amaryllis.
And I noticed for us, ours, as I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago, ours blossomed right around Christmas, and it just made the holidays a lot of fun to watch this. Is that usually the case? Is it right between Thanksgiving, Christmas time that they'll all start to shoot?
They all kind of come along at their own pace, so some move along faster than others. If you put them in a warmer, well-lit location, you can move them along quicker.
A little faster.
Yeah, and so what we'll usually recommend is that you put them in a nice, warm, well-lit location and kind of get them started. But then if you want them to bloom during the holidays, you can put them back in a cooler location, but still with lots of light, but a much cooler location, and you can slow them down. And so it's easier to slow them down than it is to speed them up in time to get them to bloom for the holidays. But a lot of our customers, they really like to have them bloom after the holidays are over so that they have something fun and enjoyable during January when it's cold and nasty and snowy outside.
It's like saving your Christmas presents after Christmas, right?
To open a couple.
There you go.
Save a couple to open in January just to keep the holiday spirit rolling. So that wouldn't be bad. But we're really close to having the store all decorated for the holidays too. Usually we like to be done right around Halloween, and we're right there. And we've got some amazing displays. We've got some surprises. If you haven't been down on Center Street, we'll have some surprises out probably after today. We usually like to have them out for Halloween, since everybody will be tromping around on Center Street on Halloween. So we'll probably get a few things out on the sidewalk to kind of liven things up a little bit out there as well too. So it should be fun. But great time of year to be outside. The weather's been relatively nice for this time of year. We don't have like super cold temperatures and snow on the ground for trick-or-treating for Halloween, which is kind of nice. Yeah, but we don't have those 70-degree temperatures we had early last week either.
We were looking down through the years. The average temperature that we've recorded here at KVNU has been about 57, 58.
Yeah.
And for most of this week, we were under that.
Yeah.
This weekend, we could even be above that. By Tuesday,
yeah.
we're looking at 60s again.
Yeah. So some nice temperatures coming. So it'll be a good time to get outside and get some of those fall projects taken care of. So that's prepping the garden, cleaning up perennials, winterizing roses, fertilizing the lawn. Get that lawn perked back up. So these are all topics we can discuss this morning on the Garden Guide. And if you'd like to call in with questions or comments, phone lines are open. We'd love to have you join us here on the Garden Guide, 753-5868, 753-KVNU, or 1-800-369-5868. Voles, definitely should be talking about voles. And I actually had a hobo spider inside my truck the other day, and I'm trying to figure out how he got inside my truck. And he was inside the center console, and I'm driving down the street, and I look down the center console, and there's this big old spider sitting right there, and it's like, all right, where did you come from?
I don't know if that's the first thing I would think of when I saw one of those.
It's like, where the heck did you? It was crazy. And then there was one running across the floor at my house too. So it is definitely time to do a little bit of spraying for spiders inside as well too. But looks like we've got our first phone call. We do.
Let's go out to the phones. We have Charles joining us on the line from Hyde Park. Charles, welcome to the Garden Guide.
Thank you. I have a question about pruning. The last few years, I thought I was doing it right, but I just want to be sure. So what I have is about 5 or 6 Canadian red chokecherry trees.
Okay.
They're about 5 years old, so the trunks are about 5 inches in diameter, and they're about 25 feet tall. What I've been doing over the years is cutting them back 1/3 to try to. I want a stronger trunk because these trees tend to overgrow themselves.
Yes.
And then when the snow hits them, it brings them down to the ground and you get breakage. I had a little breakage, but not much. One of my neighbors trims his trees. It's not a Canadian chokecherry, but it's just a tree. But they just chop it down to where there's a trunk and then about I would say a foot or two of 3-inch branches, and then they do that every year. And then these stringers or suckers, not suckers, but the runners or whatever they're called, the switches, grow a whole lot. It looks like a tree during the summer, and in the winter it's cut down. Now I know he'll never have his tree pushed over by the snow, but I don't want to do that.
Tree.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't want to do that to my tree. So should I this year keep doing as I do and cut 1 or 30% or so off these whips, or just? I don't want to get into a situation where I've got a tree trunk with a bunch of whips on it.
Right.
I'm really trying to shape these trees. I'm not. I don't want them for fruit. The birds take care of it before I could even think about taking a fruit.
Yeah. A lot of your. Go ahead.
Okay. And the other question I have is, when I was a master gardener, they said something about the top whip that you cut. If you cut that, it discourages the tree from growing taller. And should I leave the one tall piece in the middle, the master staff, or just go ahead and trim that all off 1/3 like I've always been doing? Am I doing the right thing, or should I?
Those are great. Those are great questions, Charles. Really great questions. And so, now is actually a good time to prune your chokecherry. If you wanted to do fall, you could wait till spring if you wanted to. Getting towards your last question, that central leader that goes up through the middle is what it's called. And if you leave that central leader, the tree will continue to grow tall up to a certain point. If your chokecherry is about 25 feet tall already, it's probably not going to get a whole lot taller. They kind of max out at about 20 to 30 feet. So you're probably about at maximum height. If you wanted it to bush out and be more full, if you took that central leader back and kind of modified it, you would definitely get a bushier tree. You'd get more branching horizontally than vertically, and so you get them a lot more lateral growth that way. So that's definitely something you could do. It sounds like you're pruning about 25 to 30% out each year, which is great. First thing I always look for is for branches that are crossing over or rubbing up against each other, or that are weaker joints, weaker crotches that are really open or really narrow, because those are the ones that are going to break. And so we end up taking those out, and in many cases that accumulates a good portion of your 20 to 30% that you've taken out of the tree. And by taking 30% out of your tree, you're encouraging a lot of new growth, but not so much new growth that you get just tons of water sprouts that just shoot up. Sometimes with apples or pears, or even some of your other fruit trees, if you prune a little too heavy, you will get a lot of just vertical whips that shoot straight up, and those are called water sprouts, and they're not productive growth. I mean, they put leaves out, but they're never going to really produce fruit or anything, and they're usually fairly weak growth as well too. So you end up just trimming those all out every single year. So
Okay.
it sounds like you're doing a great job with your tree. If you want more lateral growth, take that central leader out. Definitely take out anything damaged, diseased, broken, really weak crotches, branches that are rubbing up against each other. Thin those all out. Open your tree up, and it will be less likely to get diseases, less likely to have snow damage and wind damage as well too by doing that. And then if you want some basics on pruning, our fruit growing guide that we put together last year has the most amazing pruning section in there, and I like it because it's basic enough that it makes you feel comfortable pruning. Like where to make the cuts, how to identify the parts of the tree, how to make those cuts and where and which parts to take out. It's really got some great basics in there, and that's available on our website, but it's also available in the store if you want a hard copy. You can come in and get the hard copy. But it really is geared towards making someone who wants to do pruning on their own but just feels uncomfortable enough that they're afraid they're going to damage their tree. It will make you feel comfortable enough that you go, I think I can do this, and get out there and do it. And then once you do it and you kind of refresh your memory with the guide from time to time, you'll just get confident to the point where you're just like, yes, I can do this, and I'm going to do a good job, and my tree's going to continue to survive and thrive. So I've got some great resources for you as well, Charles.
Well, great. When I come to the store, what is the name of the book again?
So
I just want to.
It's our fruit growing guide. And it's one that I actually assembled and put together, and it's got information on all the fruits. So it starts with the small fruits, like strawberries and blueberries and blackberries, and it kind of shows you how to grow every single one of those. But it also gets into the larger trees. So it's got apples and pears and apricots and peaches and plums, and it even has a section on nuts as well too, and gives you all the basics that you need to be successful with each of those, and explains a lot of the different varieties that are available as well. So,
well, great. I will hop in the store and get one.
That would be great. Thank you so much, Charles.
You've been a real help.
Oh, I hope so.
Okay.
I hope so. Have a wonderful weekend.
Hey, you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the mistakes that we've made in the past is that we look at the tree. In fact, we were doing this last week. We picked all the apples off of our tree, and we thought, you know what? Maybe we ought to just get in here right now and just clear this all out. And spring's the best time to do it. The problem is that we seem to forget. At least I do.
Yeah.
I'm not up in the tree picking all the fruit in the spring like I am in the fall. And so it's so easy to forget to get up there to do a lot of that spring clearing and pruning.
Right.
And so, yes, you definitely want to do it. Spring's definitely the better time as long as you remember.
Yeah, got to remember to do it. And, it's nice to get out there the end of February, but sometimes it's still a little bit too cold. And then you've got really all the way through March to do your pruning. And even if the trees have started to leaf out a little bit or flower, you can still prune after that as well, too. Yeah. It's best if you can get them while they're dormant. And we have a lot of clients that like it when we come out and prune for them in the fall, just so it's done and they don't have to worry about it in the springtime. And sometimes weather is less cooperative in the spring to be able to get some of that done. But It's it makes your trees so much more productive when you prune. It helps with snow and wind damage. You just don't have branches breaking off. You have a better crop. You get bigger fruit. You get more delicious fruit. It's like they're tastier as well too. And then had somebody in yesterday, and they're like, my tree didn't produce this year. Blossoms got frozen. It's probably going to have a lot of fruit on it next year. What should I do? Should I prune heavier? It's like, well, make sure you prune properly. But then next year, make sure you thin the fruit out so you don't have just a whole bunch of little small apples or a whole bunch of smaller fruits that aren't productive for you. So you get a whole bunch of small peaches on there. It's great, but
you're going to end up with small peaches.
Get a whole bunch of small peaches, yeah. So it's always better to get out there and do some thinning. And since we are talking fruit trees, we have hit about that 25% leaf drop at this point. And so if you haven't done your spray for diseases for next year for stone fruits, so stone fruits would be apricots, cherries, peaches, plums, nectarines. We want to get those sprayed for shot hole fungus, bacterial bud blight, peach leaf curl. A lot of those diseases will carry over from one year to the next, and usually at about 25% leaf drop, that's when we recommend that you spray those trees with a basic fungicide. Copper soap would be great. F-stop would be excellent. Complete disease control from Monterey. Any of those would be superb to spray right now. And make sure and mix a little bit of a horticultural oil in there, or a dormant oil like the high-yield dormant oil or the Natural Guard horticultural oil. Mix that in there, and it'll control insects as well too. So it'll get blister mites on apples and pears. It'll control aphids. It'll control a lot of insects that are going to want to winter over until next year. So great time to get out there, especially if the temperatures are but high 50s
Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, high 50s, low 60s are perfect, perfect for that. So really great time to get out this weekend and get that done. You'll see a big difference on your trees next year. In fact, I grabbed an apple this morning that I had picked up from somebody else, and it had San Jose scale, a little bit of San Jose scale damage on it. And it's like, we could have taken care of that with a little horticultural oil.
Now, can you spray knowing that we're probably going to see some rain coming for Wednesday, Thursday?
Yeah.
Still okay?
30 minutes before it rains, as long as you got enough time for it to dry. Yeah, since it's got that horticultural oil in there, it won't wash it all off. Okay. It'll help it adhere through the weather. So great time to get out there and do that spraying. So it looks like we've got another call.
Yeah, let's go back out to the phones. We have Joan joining us on the line from Millville. Joan, welcome to the show.
Hi. I've got some questions about cutting back some plants for winterizing. My hibiscus, I've had differing questions or answers on that as to whether you cut them back or leave them till spring.
So is it a tropical hibiscus, a hardy hibiscus that dies down and then comes back from the ground each year? Or is it a...
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yes, you can definitely prune those in the fall or in the spring. You can do either. I like to trim those down to about 2 inches or so, and then mulch them. Since they are hardy, but they're not the hardiest of plants, and so it's a good idea to mulch those to kind of protect those through the winter time a little bit. And then ours are kind of close to our driveway, so I blow a lot of snow on top of them as well too to insulate them and to protect them through the winter time. And that seems to work great. And so no problems there.
Okay. Also on roses, we have one's a climbing rose and one's not, and it's about 6 feet tall. But I'm not sure. Do I cut it back every year or just let it grow, or what?
Climbing roses, you want to select about 3 or 4 main whips. The canes that are long and healthy looking, and trim those down to about 4 to 5 feet. So usually we'll select 3 or 4 really good ones, take a lot of that extra growth off, and trim those down to about 4 or 5 feet. And then in the spring, you may need to trim a little bit more if you had a little bit of dieback on them. But then all the new growth that comes off of those whips is where all your flower production is going to be. So if you leave the roses too long, those older canes won't ever really produce flowers. It's the new growth that comes off of those old canes where the production is. And so you do want to do some severe pruning on those, really clean those up, get some of the excess growth out, and then fertilize next spring, and then consistently once a month through next year to encourage a lot of new growth, and that's where all your flower production is going to be.
Okay, great. Also, on storing dahlias, I've dug them up, but I haven't put them in anything yet.
Right.
How do I store those?
So the dahlias are pretty resilient. You can do wood shavings, you can do vermiculite, you can do peat moss, you can do coconut coir, and now's a great time to trim those down so they are, again, about 2 inches tall on the stems. Try not to damage the tubers too much. I will just put those in a box with like a little layer of wood shavings or vermiculite down the bottom and just kind of layer those in there, cover them up, put them in a cool, dry spot down in the basement, and by first part of April or so, you could pull those out, cut them. Usually you'll start to see little eyes coming on them when it warms up. You'll see little eyes popping out, and you can divide those so that you have an eye for each tuber. That you can separate those, so you can take those big clumps of dahlias and split them up and share them or plant more of them, whatever works for you, and kind of get those started up in April, and they'll be late March maybe. They'll be growing and ready to transplant out by mid-May. So
great. Now, do you need to separate them? Will it harm it if you leave them together?
If you leave them together, they will
leave a bunch.
They will do fine. At some point, if they get bigger and bigger and bigger, you'll have to split them up. But usually, we'll wait until those buds start growing on the tubers in the springtime, and then you can see where to make the cuts and separate those bulbs out. So,
okay. Also on raspberries, we don't know what kind of raspberries we have. We have some, I think, that are ever-bearing and some that are not. And I hear to mow them down. Some say, no, don't cut them down at all.
Yeah.
What's best on that?
So it depends on the type of raspberries. So if they produced this fall, then they are an ever-bearing type raspberry. And you can trim those right down to the ground, and they'll come back again next year and produce a heavy crop in the fall. Or you can trim them like your June-bearing raspberries, where you maybe do a little bit of maintenance pruning right now if they're really tall, but in the spring, you trim them down to about 3 feet. And I like to fertilize every time I prune. So in the spring, I'll fertilize. And those older canes, they will bush out, and the new growth that comes off those older canes will produce fruit for you. And so that'll be your summertime fruit. And then once those have produced, then you take those older canes that just fruited in June or early July and cut those down to the ground and get rid of those old canes and allow the new canes to come up. And that's when I fertilize again, and then you'll get a crop on your everbearing in the fall as well too. But your June bearing will just produce that one crop in the middle of the summer. And so there are multiple ways to prune those. But when it comes to your June bearing raspberries, you'll want to prune them that way. So trim them down to about 3 feet in the spring. Let them produce. Once they're done producing, take those old canes out, fertilize the new ones that are coming up, because those are going to be your producers for next year.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
You are very welcome, Joan. And there is some great information in our fruit growing guide on how to prune the raspberries and take care of those as well too. So there's all the different methods of pruning are in there. We've got some nice diagrams as well too that shows you how to do that. So, all right.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling this morning.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And it looks like we are kind of at the bottom of the hour.
Already half of the show over, but we still have plenty of time to take more calls. So feel free to call in at 753-5868, 1-800-369-5868. One question I get a lot from my wife, partially, we've got to take care of the roses. And I know we talked about it yesterday or last week, but it's definitely something that's on a lot of people's mind.
Yeah, Joan was talking about the roses, so it's like that would lead right into winterizing the roses, so we can talk about that when we come back.
For those.
Yeah, when we come back.
So phone lines are open if you have a question for Mark, 753-5868 or 1-800-369-5868, and we'll be back with more of the Garden Guide coming up here on KVNU. Feel Wright with your KVNU News Update. It's brought to you by Whole Tree Care. Well, surprising no one, writing candidate Mark Ensign has chimed in on the latest dispute between the Cache County Council and County Executive David Zook. Reacting to an unprecedented news conference that was held on Thursday by members of the County Council condemning Zook's surprise budget proposal, Ensign simply said, quote, "The citizens of Cache County deserve better." Last Tuesday, Zook presented council members with the new budget proposal that had differed dramatically from the draft budget that council members had been considering since early September. At their news conference on Thursday, council members unanimously expressed their dismay with the ongoing budget process. Now, relationships between Zook and council members have been chilly in the past year and turned positively frigid after Council Vice Chair Paul Borup and members David Erickson and Gina Worthen had endorsed Ensign as the write-in candidate for county executive. But the press conference on Thursday was the first time that council members who had previously been seen as neutral, Barbara Tidwell, Carl Ward, Nolan Gunnell, and Gordon Zillis, had publicly criticized Zook as well. Zook and Ensign will face off in the upcoming election on November 8th. And students from the Logan High School Logan Environmental Action Force are asking residents in Cache Valley to participate in a pumpkin protest by carving or painting a pumpkin with some scary environmental facts or stats this Halloween. Leaf leadership member Belle Weed said that the protest is a fun way to raise awareness of climate issues. To some examples Weed provided were 1.9 degrees Fahrenheit since 1880, or climate change can be irreversible by 2030. Well, looking at clear skies to continue as daytime temperatures through the weekend going to stay in the mid-50s with overnight temperatures right around the low 30s. I'm Will Feelwright for KVNU News.
From ABC Sports. Hi, everybody. I'm Todd Ant. The World Series got off to a seemingly bad start for the Phillies in Houston last night. The Astros quickly jumping out to a 5-0 lead off two Kyle Tucker blasts.
And he drives this one to right field and deep. This could go! This could go! It does!
On KBME, that's where it started going downhill for the Stros. Clutch hitting in the fourth from Nick Castellanos and Alec Bohm made it 5-3. JT Real Muto tied it in the fifth with a 2 RBI double. And then in the top of the 10th, Real Muto with major damage.
Kicks and deals. And it swung on, hit well to right. Going back on it, Tucker to the track, at the wall. He jumps! It's gone! Yeah! T with an opposite field home run just out of the reach of a leaping Kyle Tucker.
On WIP, David Robertson got the save, and the Phils take Game 1 of the World Series. Hoops, the Lakers are 0-5. They lost to Minnesota 111-102. This is ABC Sport.
Did you know that we have the largest appliance parts inventory in northern Utah and southern Idaho? If you're a handy person and need a part to finish your repair, chances are we have that part in stock and at a competitive price. Hi, I'm Jeff, a manager here at Darrell's, your one-stop appliance shop for sales, service, and parts, serving all of northern Utah and southern Idaho for over 52 years. Darrell's, west on Airport Road, open until 6 on weekdays and 5 p.m. on Saturdays.
This is Dr. Red, chiropractic physician with Red River Health and Wellness. Are you suffering with fatigue, brain fog, headaches, intestinal issues, weight gain, and you haven't been able to find any answers?
I was struggling with constantly being hot, struggling with not sleeping, being able to fall asleep, stay asleep, or even wake up the next morning. I had very high levels of inflammation and memory loss. Memory loss was the scariest part.
Red River Health and Wellness can help you.
The sleep improved, my memory's coming back. Every time I remember something, I still get really excited. I go walking every morning now, which I've never done before. I've always really wanted to be that type of person that wakes up early enough to enjoy the sunrise. I get to do that every morning now.
Our goal is to teach you and educate you so you know how to manage your condition a lot more effectively and you know what to do and what not to do for the rest of your life.
Schedule your appointment today at 855-55-RIVER. Red River Health and Wellness with offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
Call Red River today.
It's the Garden Guide on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
And welcome back to the show. 8:38 on this Saturday morning. Will Feelwright along with Mark Anderson of Anderson Seed and Garden. Mark, we were just mentioning that the store is getting there. We're in the transition phase still of transitioning from gardening to Christmas.
So close. We're about 90% decorated, so we've got a lot of people coming in, and they're starting to get excited for the holidays. And we try and shoot for Halloween as our time to have the store done and we're ready to go, and we're gonna be right after Halloween, so right on schedule.
Open house will be coming up this next month. Yeah. A lot of things going on.
It is, and it's crazy that time has marched on so fast. I'm like looking at the calendar going, oh man, it's like open house is really not that far off.
Nope.
3 weeks away. Today's the 29th. It'll be the 18th and 19th of November for our holiday open house. And then on the 26th, I got to remember it's the Christmas parade downtown on Center Street.
Yeah.
And so tonight they've got the Witches Dance going on. Center Street's going to be closed off. There's music. There's going to be all kinds of different things going on this afternoon. So it should be a fun time to be downtown and experience what's happening. Bulbs are on sale. We decided we're getting low on our fall bulbs. So this is tulips, daffodils, hyacinths, crocus, whatever fall bulbs we've got left. Got some nice alliums. We're going to do those for 25% off this weekend. So come in and take advantage of that and come and see what we've got going on at Anderson's for fall and for the upcoming holiday season. Should be fun. And we've got a lot of callers coming in.
We do.
So it's great. Yeah, our phone lines are almost full. So phone lines are 753-5868, 753-KVNU if you'd like to join us here on the Garden Guide. We're talking rose winterization though as well too. So we got to make sure and get that get that covered as well too. So
get into that. And let's go out first to Marilyn, who's joined us on the line from Wellsville. Marilyn, welcome to the show. Thanks for holding through the break.
Well, thank you, and good morning.
Good morning.
And I'm sorry I hope you haven't already discussed this. We live kind of at an elevation where I don't know what the deal is with my roses. They keep their leaves and they're green for so long, and then I want to trim them back, but I end up getting snow.
Yes.
And then in the spring, we're sitting up here in the snow, and the roses have their feet in the snow, and they start putting buds. And it's like, okay, I know, I get it. I'm in the wrong place, but I love roses.
Yes, they're so pretty. So this is a really good time to start winterizing those. And so we recommend a quarter of a cup of magnesium sulfate and a quarter of a cup of potash to make them hardier through the winter and to make them bloom more next year. We recommend that you don't do much pruning in the fall. In fact, let the rose flowers fade on there, develop rose hips. It'll make the roses go dormant quicker. It'll make them hardier through the wintertime. So we really don't recommend you prune too much in the fall until they've really gone dormant, and even then it's best not to prune, just to leave them up, and if they still have leaves on them, that's okay. Let them do their thing. And then we prune severely in the springtime, but I usually won't do much pruning on those until the first weekend of April. So first weekend of April is when we really get the pruners out and prune those roses, pull the mulch back away from those, and fertilize at that point. So right now, mag sulfate and potash, put that on there, water it really well, and then mulch your roses 10 to 12 to even 14 inches of mulch this fall to protect those grafts, to protect those roses through the winter. And then we blow a lot of snow on top of them. So I'll take the snow blower and I'll just blow snow right on top of the roses to help insulate those more through the wintertime. So that's just fine to do that as well too. But yeah, but don't do your pruning until first weekend of April, even if they start to bud.
Oh, great. All right.
Okay.
Well, that's good. That's good. And what do you suggest for mulch that it won't blow off? We get a lot of wind.
So a lot of people will use leaves, and that works great, but I prefer to use a product called soil building conditioner. And the soil building conditioner is finely ground redwood bark. It's been composted with some poultry manure and some bat guano and some worm castings and some kelp meal. It's got all kinds of good things in there, and we'll just put that right over the top of the roses, and we don't even pack it in, just usually about 12 inches, and cover those up, and then snow on top of that, and then in the spring you can kind of pull the mulch away from the roses and just work it into the soil. You don't have to like haul it away like you would with leaves or grass clippings or anything like that, and then you don't have a mess to have to clean up in the spring, so it makes life a lot easier.
It's just part of it.
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
That sounds really good.
All right.
Great. All right. Thank you very much.
You are so welcome. Thanks for calling this morning, Marilyn. Have a wonderful weekend.
Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, and we have Tammy, who's joining us on the line from Smithfield. She's next. Tammy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning.
I have a couple of questions. I have asters that get too tall, and so I do cut them back, and that helps them stay shorter through, in the fall when they bloom.
Right.
And I believe last week a lady asked about the hibiscus, if we could do that with them.
It was Janet that asked. And I have
did you find out if that was possible?
I have her name written on my notes right here in front of me. as we were talking about the hibiscus, it was Joan that was asking about the hibiscus, and it's like, oh yes, I gotta tell Janet. Okay, Janet can trim those back. She can head them like she was talking about, but you want to do it before they get 12 inches tall. So I knew there was I knew there was a height at which you wanted to do it, but I couldn't remember what it was. So I looked it up last weekend, and you want to do it before they reach 12 inches. And you can kind of pinch, you can pinch those center leads out, and it will bush them out a little bit more so they don't get quite so tall. So absolutely, just make sure you do it early on in their growth stages before they get taller than 12 inches.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
I also, I do know that you cannot do that with the phlox. And I'm wondering, though, can you do that with the mums? Are you cutting the blossoms off if you do it with the mums?
Yeah, with the mums, if you get it early, I think you'd be okay. But they're kind of bushy to begin with. I know some varieties are a little bit taller. I would probably be a little hesitant to do it with those because you might cut your flowers off. And with the phlox, I think the same thing. Don't.
Yes, I have learned that you can't do it with the phlox.
Yeah, don't head them back, or else you won't have any flowers on them. So
right.
Yeah, but with the asters, now everything's kind of done blooming. It's a great time to get out there and just trim everybody down and clean it up and get ready for next year. Even the ornamental grasses, I like to trim those down too because then you just have a mess in the spring to have to clean up. So, but it's kind of personal preference. If you want to.
And I've got a honeysuckle vine. How much can I trim it back right now?
Honeysuckle vine, I'd probably go about halfway.
Halfway, okay.
Yeah.
So don't butcher it, but you can do a little bit.
Yeah, 25 to 50% would probably be good. And they're aggressive growers, so if they're 15 feet long, you can trim them back to 7 or 8 feet, and they'll just go back out to 15 again by next year. So,
okay.
Fast growers.
Okay, now I've got a raspberry question. My raspberries, I do put iron on it. I have never put the nitrogen, so I'm going to try that next year.
Yes.
But I'm wondering, and my raspberries, I have both the everbearing and the June-bearing, and they're both in containers, or raised beds, I should say.
Oh, they work great in raised beds.
And I'm wondering, do I need to fertilize them more because of them being in a raised bed more often?
I would fertilize a little bit more in the raised beds because you end up losing some of the nutrient as it kind of drains out the bottom. They're made for better drainage, and you can build your own type of soil so that the raspberries will perform very well in the raised beds, but you do tend to lose a little bit of nutritional value faster since they are in raised beds. So I would fertilize a little bit heavier.
That's what I was wondering, because I'm really not getting the best berries that I could be,
right?
Versus when they were in the ground.
Yeah.
Can I fertilize them while they are producing, or should I cut the fertilizer off once they start producing?
I'll usually fertilize first thing in the spring when I do my pruning, and then sometimes about the end of May, 1st of June, we'll hit them again, or do it right after they've produced, and fertilize them again in the middle of the summer, so you can like encourage that fall production as well too. So I've got a few gardeners that like to fertilize them 3 times a year, some that just do twice a year, some that don't fertilize at all. So
okay,
I
think I'm going to stick with the 3 times a year.
Yeah.
And I do have one other question. I've got a forsythia bush, and I bought it from Walmart, so I don't know if it's. I'm wondering is there different varieties of forsythia? Because this one that I have, it sends up a lot of suckers, and it's just messy. It grows really fast, and so it's really leggy, and it's just hard for me to control it. I'm wanting to dig it up, but I'm wondering. I really like forsythia, but I'm wondering, is there a variety that doesn't sucker? That doesn't send up suckers?
I'm familiar with about 8 varieties of forsythia, so there are quite a few that are out there. I'm not sure which one you've got, but there are some that stay a little more compact. They don't get as big, so they're going to max out at about 4 to 5 feet tall. And there are others that get really tall and can get 8 to 10 feet tall as well too. So there are multiple varieties of forsythia out there, and so if you want a plant that's not as out of control, we can go with a more compact one. With it sending up suckers from down below, that's usually not. That's kind of unusual. They usually don't sucker too much, and so I guess it's a possibility.
I've got a burning bush right next to it, and I don't think it's the burning bush that's suckering. I know it's one of those two. I can't decide which one it is.
Yeah, and usually
it's the forsythia.
Yeah, usually the burning bush don't sucker much either. So
yeah.
Take a picture. And bring it in. Let me take a look at it.
I'm glad to know that there's a different variety, because I think I am gonna. Because I do want a smaller one, and this one's just way too big for the spot that I've got it in.
Right.
So
if you want to take a couple pictures,
to there's other. Pardon me?
I say if you want to take a couple pictures, bring a couple pictures in. Let me take a look at it. We can see where it's suckering and maybe figure out why. Otherwise, it might be time to get a new shrub, Tammy.
Oh, okay. I could do that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Mark.
You are so welcome. Thanks for calling this morning.
Got a couple other callers that are holding. Before we get to that, we had one caller who called in, wasn't able to hold on the line, wanted some tips on saving beets.
Oh,
be able to, especially right now as we're pulling those beets out. We've talked a little bit about this, about how you want to make sure you keep them cooled. You want to be able to circulate the air around them so that they don't mold.
We have done our beets very similar to the way we do our carrots before. And you can keep them in the ground and mulch them like you would your carrots, and then go out and dig them up as you need them. But last year we dug them up and we stored them in sand in the garage, and they held up really, really well until all of our carrots and our beets got frozen, and then they didn't hold up very well.
So you need them in a warmer place, but not too warm.
Yeah, so we want them to stay between 35 and 45 degrees, and we layered them in sand, and they held up really, really well. They didn't get like rubbery or anything, and what I found is with storing some of the fruits and vegetables, with storing some of the vegetables, if you don't have a high enough humidity, then the vegetables will get kind of rubbery. They will get kind of floppy, and the beets kind of fall into that category. So you want to keep the humidity a little bit higher, and you can store them in sand, and that actually worked really, really well.
Now, do you keep the tops on?
Took the tops off.
So you took the tops off.
Tops
off. Then just buried them in the sand.
Yep. And just layered them in there just like we did our carrots. Of course, the beets were a lot bigger, but they stored exceptionally well, storing them just like the carrots.
Okay.
Yeah, it worked out perfect.
All right, well, hopefully that's helpful to our caller. Nancy has been holding on the line from Lewiston. Nancy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I have an amaryllis plant, and I did not trim it back or anything in this spring when it quit blooming.
Yeah.
Is it too late to do that now? And then I would like to also put it in a larger pot.
Putting it in a bigger pot should work great. Now's a good time to let it just rest. And so I would trim all the leaves off and just cut it right back to the bulb, and then just put it in a cool, dry location, dark, and just let it rest for 6 weeks. Just let it rest until, a little bit after Thanksgiving, and then start watering it and get it going again. And you could definitely transplant it to a larger pot at that point. What our bulb expert, Hank Stufbergen, told us a couple of weeks ago was with the flowers, when the flowers are done, cut the flowers off, but leave the stem up and let the stem kind of die back on its own, and it will put strength back into the bulb. And so we used to just cut the stem off when the flowers were done, but now we just cut the flowers off at the top of the stem and leave the stem up, and it will kind of feed your bulb, so your bulb will stay larger. That way you won't lose as much strength on your bulb. So definitely take those spent flowers off, leave the flower stem up, and when it starts to die back, then you can cut it back, and then we let it grow all summer long and gather some strength through the leaves. And so I usually don't cut the leaves off of mine until fall, when we're going to let it rest for the season anyway. So that should work out perfect, Nancy.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for calling this morning. Just got amaryllis bulbs in, and there are some gorgeous new varieties, and the size of the bulbs they're just huge this year. So they're looking great if you want to get some new ones to add to your repertoire. So.
Oh, great. They are beautiful.
So much fun.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Nancy.
Fun holiday tradition for us.
Yeah.
All right. Todd's joining us on the line from Logan. Todd, welcome to the show.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Doing great, Todd.
Good. I'll make it quick for you guys so you can go get your donut and your orange juice.
We should have some of that in the fridge
Mark,
here.
my front lawn project is doing great. Hopefully the weather holds so I can get it all done. I've been digging tulip bulbs out like crazy, and I've been noticing a lot of the bulbs that I'm digging out are very, very old. They've got beard on them, with the roots and stuff.
Yes.
How can you tell if they're not worth planting anymore?
That's a good question. If their size has decreased and they're smaller, that's usually when you start to get rid of them. But normally you're going to get anywhere between 2 to 5 years of good production out of your tulips, and then it's going to be time to replace them with some new ones, even if you've let them winter, like not winterize, but to naturalize and spread. Daffodils tend to last a lot longer, so you can keep those going and going and going as they split. But the tulips, they will kind of hit the end of their lifespan, so it might be time to put new bulbs in there.
Okay, because I think that I must have pulled out a half of it, a 12-inch pot of tulip bulbs out of there.
Yeah.
So anyway, also, I'm in a generous mood today, so I have some Centrensis and some Rebecca, some black-eyed Susan starts, and some juniper beard starts out in my front.
The Centrensis,
and I'm going to dig out. But if anybody wants to start, they can get a hold of me.
That works.
Okay.
So if anybody's interested, they can contact you, and you can give them the contact info.
I would even share your phone number with them.
Okay, that would be great, because they're going to be out at the end of the day. So if anybody wants some, they can come,
that sounds
get the
good.
info. And
so you've got Jupiter's beard and some Rudbeckia, some black-eyed Susan.
Black-eyed Susan.
Yeah, some yellow black-eyed Susan and some red of the juniper beard.
All right. That sounds great, Todd.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Wonderful.
And Will, thanks, guys.
Hey.
Anytime,
Appreciate
Todd.
the call.
Yep.
Have a good weekend.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Just 3 minutes left, Mark, and we've been talking about all of the things that are going to be going on at the store today, but over the next couple of weeks, a lot happening.
So much
going on. Transition to the Christmas
So
season.
we got Witches Dance tonight. Center Street's going to be shut off this afternoon. Big party going on down there. Should be a lot of fun. Come have a great time on Center Street for the Witches Dance. And I think it is at 5. Is it at? I think it's at 5:30.
5:30.
Yeah, 6. And no, it's at 6, at 6:30, and at 7. I think
if you show up at 6 o'clock, you're good.
You're probably good to go.
You're good to go.
I should have looked at the schedule beforehand, but the Witches Dance is happening tonight. There'll be music, there'll be entertainment, there'll be all kinds of things going on Center Street. But then in a couple weeks, we have our Christmas open house, which is the 16th and 17th of December, and so we'll have some great deals going on. The store will be fully decorated. We'll be ready to go for the holidays, and then the weekend after after Thanksgiving, which I think is it's the 24th.
Mhm.
So the 24th of December. Yeah.
Or of November.
Of November.
Yeah.
Oh, of November. 26th of November.
Yeah.
Sorry. So open house 18th and 19th of November, and then the Christmas parade will be the 26th of November, and that'll be a lot of fun too. It's like bring Santa in. We'll light up the Christmas trees on Center Street. There'll be movies. There'll be all kinds of fun. There'll be all kinds of fun things happening that night. We might have some surprises at Anderson's as well too. So yeah, some good things. Good things happening down there on Center Street. Vols. We didn't get a chance to talk about
those.
But we'll do it next week for sure. And next week's the last show of the year.
Final show, that's right, of the season.
Yep, the 5th of November we'll be doing the last show for this year, but we'll be back again next year in March.
So great time to get into Anderson Seed and Garden. You did mention we've got a lot of bulbs that you can take advantage of right now. Get the bulbs. A lot of fun. The amaryllis bulbs is it was a holiday tradition for us last year.
Blast.
And something we're going to start doing every year.
So our remaining tulips, daffodils, hyacinths, crocus, and we're getting low on those. If you want to plant some bulbs still, we're going to do them 25% off this weekend. So it's a great time to pick up some extra bulbs. We do have some good varieties still. There's a good selection, but we've gone through probably 75% of our bulbs are already gone.
Okay.
So time to get them going.
So join us next week.
Stories.
This is a situation that is rapidly spinning out of control.
Get it all here. News Talk KVNU Logan, 610 AM and